I just want to take a few seconds to honor a legend of the game who sadly passed on. We send our heartfelt and sincerest condolences to the Hendricks family and close relatives. The game has lost a legend. We will miss you, the game will miss you, and may your legacy continue to live on. Hey guys, Courtnall Skosan here, and welcome to Skosan Unplugged. Welcome back to the podcast, guys. Today we've got a very special episode. I'm sitting with people that will make you rich. Guys, I've been looking forward to this one. But all jokes aside, we're going to have some amazing conversations today. We're going to learn all things money. And, this is something that I hold dear to my heart. It's something that I've always been wanting to learn more of, and it's an amazing opportunity, an amazing privilege for me to have these people in the house, to be able to share this knowledge with you guys, so hopefully I do you guys proud and I ask the right questions. But Geo and Francois, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited about this, man.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Let's get straight into it, It's important for me to, obviously, for people to understand the journey, so tell me a little bit about, and from both point of views, what led you to get into the finance space? For me, it's passion. I play rugby, what led you to go into the financial space?
Yeah, for me, probably to speak about passion, I was never passionate about finance or wanted to become a wealth manager. It was never part of my journey. So I went to, after school, what am I going to do? And I read an article, internal auditing. They want internal auditors are quite in demand. So then I said, let me study BCom internal auditing. And I did my honors in BCom internal auditing. And then I didn't know what I want to do, but it was not auditing. I said anything else but not auditing. And then I worked in corporate, any sales job. And that's when I started to get a feel for finance. And I knew that if I had the right knowledge, I can actually help people. I can actually change lives through the knowledge that I have. Yeah. And that is where my path with finance, specifically wealth management for individuals, started. Yeah, Francois, you've got a similar story?
I've got a similar story. So I studied human resource management.
Sure. Totally different.
Totally different. Did my honors in HR. And then I got a cricket contract with the Titans. So I played professional cricket for a while.
How long?
About 3 years.
Oh, awesome.
3 years, yeah.
Nice.
And then at that stage, we were still sponsored by Momentum. And I just sort of asked, listen, what is it that you guys actually do? Always loved economics, investments, all that stuff.
Yeah. And
spoke to one of the big guys there, and he said, well, listen, come and try it. You'll work for yourself. You'll be your own boss, stuff like that.
A dream.
Yeah, exactly. As a sports guy, you don't want to be, you're
not used to a boss.
8 to 5 and all that stuff. It doesn't work
Got
out.
you.
And then I studied my postgraduate diploma in financial planning through COFSIs.
Okay.
And then, just got into it. But always had a love of people, and that's where the HR came in. Always loved people, working with people. And then HR, it changed a lot.
Yeah.
And it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And now, still, I can work with people, and I know finances are such a big thing in people's lives.
Yeah.
So, if we can help people, that's what it's about.
Yeah, it's been 10 years for both of us
Sure.
in the industry. So.
That's so special, man. And the funny thing is, people always say, but, money is not important. But this is something you need each and every day. It's something that you literally exchange each and every day when you're living your life. So it's such an important thing. On that, though, before Bovest, what shaped your philosophy when it comes to money?
What you just touched on there, people don't talk about money. Because I think the moment I talk about money, I'm materialistic.
Yeah, 100%.
Or they're intimidated by the topic. So the mindset around money needs to change. And I think that's great why you have having us here today and just
100%.
to talk about money. That's a place we need to start.
Yeah.
If we look at the religious aspect in the Bible, there's also a lot. God talks a lot about money and using your talents and make sure you...
But there's only one verse that everyone references.
Yeah, there's only one. Money is the root of all
evil, yeah.
And exactly. So if you have that mindset, you're definitely not in the right mindset. You need to change that mindset. So for us, it's really to talk about money, to educate yourself, and to employ simple habits in your life. And that's don't feel intimidated by talking about money. Because you are playing the money game. Everybody's playing the money game. If you bought something in the last 2 days, you are in the money game. So you can't say money is not important because we all are using it every day.
I love what you're saying, and then my next question to you would be and any one of you can answer, so what does financial freedom mean to you? You know, so let's get people to understand what that vision looks like.
So I think for everybody, freedom is a little bit different, but I think the essence of when you look at the definition of financial freedom is that you don't have to work, but you still have enough income for you to sustain the lifestyle you have now. So that should be the goal, to put your money into assets that will pay you a salary or an income that you don't need to work, but you still have that income to sustain your lifestyle. So I think that's the basic definition of financial freedom. But around that, it will look different for every person.
Yeah, and I think for myself, you know, as I said, we want to help clients. For me, the biggest thing is helping people sleep better at night. Because, you know, it's not just men, but mostly men are awake at night, worrying about finances. You know, it puts a lot of pressure on families, on households, all that stuff. So how do we help people sleep better at night? Now, it sounds like a stupid thing, but it does cause havoc in households, in relationships, stuff like that. So how do we give people the right tools to be able to sleep better at night, make the right financial decisions?
Sure, that's so powerful. And then for people to understand like what the level of what you guys do, is there a way that you can explain if we talk about like value under management or, you know, your portfolios or stuff that you are running, you know, for people to have an idea of the scale that you guys are doing this on? You know, someone looks and they're like, but what makes you guys the experts? You've been in the industry for 10 years, you know, like how would you answer that?
Yeah, maybe just a little background maybe about the Bovis business. Yeah, so about currently 1,000 households, families that we manage well for, 20 companies, so we have corporate companies that we also manage the pension funds for, and about 2 billion in assets under management, both locally and offshore, money offshore as well. So company founded in 2008 in the financial crisis.
Good time. It's actually a good time.
Yeah, exactly. So we went through some hard times. So like I said, for both of us, 15 years in the industry, we've learned a lot from every person that we sat across. And I think just sharing their journeys makes us knowledgeable. Not necessarily our own knowledge, but because we've had so many different examples of people doing it right and wrong, unfortunately.
Yeah, just adding on to that as well, we've seen recessions now, we've seen a lot of market downturns. We're busy now with a lot of volatility in the market as well. So we've seen a lot in the just about decade and more that we've been in the industry. Okay, so it shaped us a lot as well. And it's tested our advice. You know, what happened during COVID, where we gave certain advice to our clients, it pulled through again. And just now, it's exactly the same advice. So at least then you know the advice that I'm giving is the right advice to my clients. The tools that I'm giving my clients is the correct stuff. So yes, we are quite young, but we've been hardened a lot over the past 10, 15 years.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So that obviously now, you know, me leading up to this conversation, you know, I've been kind of like getting a feel for what it is people would ask someone, you know, that's a wealth manager or financial advisor. And I seem to pick up this theme where people are scared, afraid, intimidated, you know, whatever word you can call it. But the main theme that comes out from the question that they would like to ask is, what is the catch? Where do you guys make your money? You know, like, so they feel like, and some people have said this out loud, they're like, you know, some people in this industry, they give you a fund or a product, you know, where they know they're making the most money off of and they're not looking after the client, you know. So how would you like to address something like that, just to give people a bit of confidence?
Unfortunately, there is still people in our industry that do that.
Sure.
You know, so there is definitely still that part of our industry that sells you a product and not necessarily advice. So I think for me, to summarize it, every person's got a net worth, meaning your assets that you have and your liabilities. So if you've got 100 Rand in the bank, but you owe 50 Rand, your net worth is 50. Now, a financial advisor should assist you to, and year by year, that net worth should increase. Okay. If he's not doing that, and you're not going forward, meaning he's just selling you products and not actually contributing to your net worth, then he's not really doing his job. So I think a lot of people, they sell you policies or they sell you these products, but it doesn't really change your life. It doesn't move you forward. And I think that's the one thing people should look out for. I mean, there's other stuff. They must have an FSP number, be a credible financial advisor. For us, also being independent, meaning you don't work for a specific company with shareholders. We don't have shareholders. We don't need to sell a certain product. We are completely independent, but we have products with all of the bigger.
Yeah, I think on that as well, there's definitely a lot of skepticism around the industry and around us as advisors, and you'll always have bad actors. right? Who's in it for themselves. And I think that's in most industries like that anyway. Long story short, I think it comes down, it's in the name financial advisor.
Yeah.
You must give advice on finances. Now, for me, we spoke about, or I just quickly mentioned about, what keeps people, awake at night. A lot of it has to do with debt. So how do I assist my client in getting out of debt? What tools do we use? How do I assist you getting out there? And then from there, you can start building wealth.
Yeah.
Because you can't build wealth if you're still basically
Yeah,
in a lot of
I think
debt.
to make
So-
it
and that's
practical,
it.
in the first meeting, if he doesn't ask you a lot of questions, learning about you as a client,
Then we're already around.
then we're really wrong. If he's talking about products and you need this, it's a big warning sign. Because
Yeah.
you first need to assess the client. Where are you? Do you have debt? What's your parents' situation looking like?
Yeah.
All of those type of things to really assess the person
Yeah.
before he can give financial advice.
Yeah.
So if he's not asking you
Sure.
a lot of questions at the beginning, it's a good sign
And
to go for.
lastly, on that point as well, I think a lot of people get duped as well.
Yeah.
Get a lot of Ponzi schemes.
Yeah.
And then that's where sort of a lot of blame for me goes towards the client. When people fall for schemes that say we will give you 30% per year, per month, whatever it may be, because there a lot of greed comes into play and stuff like that. So, I mean, the industry, the financial industry at the moment for myself, I believe there's a lot of skepticism around it. And the FSCA, everyone needs to step in and start taking charge because people are getting hurt.
Yeah.
And financially hurt a lot, and then emotionally, and then all
knows
trust
what
in the
flows from
whole,
there.
all the trust in the whole financial system
Yeah.
just implodes,
Yeah.
and then people don't want to do anything. They don't want to plan, they don't want to invest, nothing, because it's sort of it's tricky.
Or they want to start doing it themselves, and we'll get to some of that stuff, as we chat. And I wanted to get to entry level, minimum wage. I mean, what is that? Between 5,000 and 6,000 rand a month. Someone is living paycheck to paycheck. Where do they even start when they start thinking about money differently? When they're thinking, how do I generate wealth? How do I even begin to fathom that I can have something of value in the future, but I'm literally living one penny to the other? What would you say to someone like that?
Yeah, no, it is tough, but for me, you have to sacrifice something to be able to live a better life in the future. So even for someone, surely there must be 100 rand somewhere, or even a 50 rand per month that you can just say, I'm going to keep away. Just get into that habit. Just change that mindset. I'm going to put something a little bit away today for a better future. So if it's 50 rand, if it's 100 rand, if it's 1,000 rand, get into that habit of putting a portion away. And in 6 months' time, you'll see, I actually got 300 rand, 400 rand. Now, it kind of gets addicting in a good way, because now you want to start accumulating. So getting into that habit, I think, is definitely the first place to start.
Yeah. I think the funny thing for me is like I've always done this. Now this is a principle my father's left with me when it comes to saving and all of that. So I have like let's say a 500 rand a month that I put in an account where I need to service my car, or to a flat tire, wheel brakes, or something like that. Now you got to spend the 3,000 rand that you didn't budget for, but I've been saving for 6 months, so I've got the 3K just laying there, so I don't have to dip into my funds. Stuff like that. And I think when people start realizing that it's not always the big amounts, we look at wealth as, or being rich, all of this kind of stuff as big things. I consider someone being rich someone without debt. Because think about that for a second. If you're in South Africa and you don't have debt, I consider you being a rich person, because you literally have so much disposable income. Imagine paying your bond 5,000 rand a month. Let's say I don't know what house you're going to get for 5,000 in Cape Town, but let's take that for an example. You now have a house that's paid off. You've got an extra 5,000 every month in your bank account, disposable, that you don't have use for anymore. And so, just to give people a perspective of how I think of people being rich, it's not a rand amount or a dollar amount. It's not having $1 million or $1 million rand in the bank. It's literally having nothing to pay that's holding you back. You're saying sleeping at night, like that would make me sleep at night.
Yeah. You're touching on debt. If we can just quickly look at debt, because you see other podcasts that people say debt is good, you must have debt. Just to quickly say, there's 3 types of debt. There's bad debt, medium debt, which I'll explain now, and then there's good debt.
Yeah.
And I think what you touch on 100%, bad debt, cars, clothing, credit card, all of that with high interest rates, sometimes as high as 20%. Very bad debt. Then there's neutral debt, and that's normally a car is neutral debt, because not a lot of people can afford to buy a car cash.
Outright, yeah.
and they need to transport. So we'll call that neutral debt. Obviously not having a very expensive car, then it's bad debt. But if you have a normal car, that's neutral debt. And then it can be good debt, but that's when you invest in your business, or you take a loan to start a business or an asset. So just to explain, there's different types of debt, but 100% I agree with you. If you can be debt free in terms of your bad debt, that's definitely a very good place to be.
Sure, awesome. And then, you know, like I want to break down for those same people that we're just talking about now. Can you break down like the key principles, like budgeting, you know, investing in a way that's simple and easy to follow? So if someone's listening now, you know, give them a little bit of insight into what that could look like practically.
So I'm just going to go back to wealth, and people see wealth as this extremely big thing, as you said, like $1 million homes and fancy cars and all that stuff. But the equation is actually very, very simple. It's income minus expenses. So if you're 100 Rand in the green, you're getting wealthier. That's how wealth works. Now, looking at it, Morgan Housel wrote in his book, which I absolutely loved, is it's actually income minus ego. Because we get that lifestyle drift, and people think, okay, no, I need to buy better clothes, I need to buy a better car, big house, all that stuff. And all that you're doing is you're just basically eroding all that extra income that you can get, just living it up the whole time. So coming back to that, like simple stuff, it's very, very irritating, and people hate doing that. Go and have a look at your budget. Banks these days on their apps, it shows you a breakdown of all your expenses.
Do people even know this? Like, it's literally right there in front of you.
It's literally right there, and it gives you a breakdown of your restaurants, your coffees, your groceries, all that stuff. And then you can see, well, listen, there's a leakage in my budget of about $600 on coffee. Do I really need to drink a coffee every single day? Because that 600 Rand, maybe I can use that in a better way, right? So, yes, I do get that people are living from paycheck to paycheck, but there's always some sort of little guilty pleasure that you can maybe let go of for the bigger scheme of things. And that's basically my biggest pointer.
You know, for me about budgeting, I've got a little bit of a different way of looking at it, because I don't want to count every time I spend on a coffee.
That's why.
I say 30 Rand.
That's what.
You know, and that's you know, I'll tell you now why. Because people feel daunting when I think of a budget. They feel I must go in a spreadsheet, and then that's why they don't start. That's why they don't do it, because there's 100 items. I'm surely not going to sit for all of them. So for me, I try to simplify it. Is in saying is you've got your income, say that's 100 Rand, and then we work on a 50, 20, 30 percentage rule. So 50, 20, 30. Meaning the first 50 of the 100, so 50%, you must spend on must-have expenses. I mean, that's your house, your car, your house, groceries, all the things that you must have in order to live a decent lifestyle. Okay. Then the next 20%, before you start spending on those coffees and all of that, 20% save or invest. Put that away. Okay, so 20% of your income. Then the rest of the 30% you can then spend on coffees or whatever it is for you, a nice wine, because you've already looked after your future self. You've already made that 20%. Because a lot of people say, I'm going to see what's left at the end of the month, then I'm going to save that or invest, and then there's nothing less. So it's just to reverse budgeting is what we call it. To first put that away, and the rest, then you don't have to go and count every single time you drink a coffee, because you're already putting away 20%.
And it's a funny thing, but it just works because you get used to being without that 20%. And you don't even see it anymore.
Like an expense, exactly. And debit orders, that's 100%. If you can put a debit order on, we see it, people are so much more successful if it's just a debit order. It just goes off. You don't have to think about it every month. And later on, you forgot about it. You don't even know it's there. If you get your statement from the advisor, I actually have substantial amount that's built up. So once again, it's that habit you get into.
What's up, guys? I'm so sorry to interrupt this episode, but I've got a very special announcement to make. I'm so excited to share this news with you guys. But first of all, I want to say thank you so much for supporting this channel and coming back week after week after week. Now, we have recently partnered with a company called EasyBet. If you go down to the description below, there will be a link where you'll be able to click on the link. If you register and sign up on their website using the code Skosan, all capitals, using the code Skosan, all capitals. If you do that, you will be able to get a 50 Rand sign-up bonus as well as 25 bonus spins. Now, we're so excited about this. I want to thank you guys so much for making stuff like this possible. You know, this has been an amazing journey and we can only grow from here. And I want to say thank you so much for our partners, EasyBet, for making this a possibility and giving you guys a special offer like that. I hope you guys take full advantage of it. Enjoy it. Remember, T&Cs applies. Now back to the episode. 100%. It's all habits. And now we're talking to, so you now get your entry level person, but now we go to your middle management, 500 per annum, you know, like 500K per annum. How is it different, you know, and is it even different between how a 50K per annum and how a 500K per annum approaches money, wealth and investing? And then what is the same and what changes?
Well, for me, if I can take that one, for me, it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. It's sort of the habits that you cultivate and just that lifestyle creep that I spoke about. Because now you go from, you know, lower management or entry-level employee to middle management. Now all of a sudden you've got all this disposable income, and now you're like, okay, well, I can get a new car, I can get a bigger house, all that stuff. And all you're doing is you still don't have that 10% to save then, or that 20% to save then. So it's sort of, that's what I love about the tools. It's sort of, if you're doing extremely well financially, as in making a lot of money, or just starting off, it's the same principles, it's the same habits that you need to cultivate.
Same habits, definitely, but I think in the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, I think you've
read it. I enjoy it.
But for me, there's one principle that stood out that still stays with me. And he looks at the poor, the middle class, and then the rich. So the poor, what they will do is you get your income, and you spend it. Income, spend it. Think of us at university, you got a little bit of money and you go and spend it. You get out. Every month you live from month to month. Then you get the middle class. So they get an income, they pay off liabilities because now you've got debt, most of us got debt, and then they spend it. And that's a spiral. So income, pay off liabilities, expenses. Where then the rich, when you have more, what you should do is you get your income, put it into an asset. Remember that 20% asset, right? So income, put it into an asset, and that asset will pay your income. And if you get into that spiral, you don't have the debt, you put it in an asset, and that pays your income. That's really where you want to be. And I think that's the difference between the real wealthy, financial freedom, all of that. They put a lot of the money into assets, not into liabilities or expenses.
Yeah, sure. And then now we get to my industry. Like this is obviously rugby players, in rugby. You guys, I mean, you've been in professional sport as well. You guys probably work with some of them a lot as well. In your experience, what has been some of the biggest mistakes that you see, when it comes to professional sport, rugby players, may that be cricket, whatever sport, you probably work with different sports. What are the biggest mistakes that they make with regards to finance?
Oh. There's lots, but I want to tell a personal story because I also played rugby and then under 19 for the Bulls, and there was this one very talented individual, and he was already playing super rugby as
obviously
a 19,
nice money,
18-year-old, very nice money. You have you don't really have expenses, so you have all this.
Because you have the rugby house that you're staying in, you're getting food.
100%, and you get match fees, and for me it was ridiculous what he was earning. But that ego that you spoke about, or the lack of discipline, you fall into that trap, and you want to show people when you go out, you just buy drinks for everybody, that's my mates. And looking 5 years, 10 years later, how well off it could have been if he just used that money into an asset and not spending all of it. It was actually a big reason for me getting into this industry, because if he had someone there that's strict on him, that can say, do this, still enjoy life. I mean, saving money and investing doesn't mean you can't enjoy your money. And I think that's what also people have wrong. But if he used that money in the right assets, he could have been set for life. So for me, it's just maybe not thinking about it and falling into that, call it ego trap or lack of discipline trap.
I think I've seen a few things before. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of guys trust friends and family close to them, and they all of a sudden see, well, listen, this guy is making 2 million rand, he just signed a 2 million rand contract, or 5 million rand. One of my other mates the other day, 50 million rand contract, so everybody knows.
It's definitely not rugby, that I can tell.
But long story short is, then all of a sudden they get approached, listen, I've got this idea, I've got this idea, I've got this idea. And they start emotionally manipulating them because I know how much money you're making, so just give me a little bit. Where I tell them, it's your life, it's your future, it's your children's future, all that stuff. You need to look after yourself and your family. It sounds extremely selfish, but what I've seen on the flip side is when things go wrong and you're retired and all of a sudden all those things need to come through. Who's then? No one. All those guys have disappeared with all the money, all that stuff. So I've seen that a lot before.
Sure.
So if your family comes to you or a friend or whatever, I've got this idea. Great idea. Go fund me page or go to the bank. If it's such a great idea and it's foolproof, go there. Don't come to me.
Or let me take that and go to my advisor and we'll chat through it and I'll get back to you.
And then they fall for some of the cricket guys. They loved a little bit of like Bless Bokke and all this flippant Goue Rooi Bokke and all this exotic
game at certain stages and bubble,
and then that bubble burst, and then all of a sudden you couldn't sell that thing for
sell it
$100.
at a loss,
So they got duped a lot by that as well. So that's the biggest thing. I mean, those guys also need a lot of help just going into the right direction, getting mentors like yourself. So, well, listen, this is how I did it. I'm going to be okay after rugby because I've done the right things from the start. So they need the right people around them to mentor them and to help them, obviously, with their finances.
Sure. Like, I want to ask this question. I don't want to offend people, but I think I'll phrase it this way. Like, whose responsibility is that? Like, you know, because if you come in as a young kid, I remember being 18 years old, it's already overwhelming. I'm getting to sit with CEOs, sitting in a room with guys that are making decisions about how much you're worth and, you know, what you're going to sign for the next 2 to 3 years of your life. And you're seeing numbers on a paper. You know, you've got an agent next to you, you've got a CEO, you've got a rugby guy that does all the contracting and all of that, you know, like, now you're stepping into where you like the money is now landing into your account, whether that may be 5,000 Rand or 10,000 Rand, doesn't matter, you know, like everyone starts their journey differently. Whose responsibility is that? Because, you know, do we leave that up to the parents? Because maybe the parents don't have that base, you know, like, because a lot of the guys that come into rugby come from families that maybe don't have, you know, they signed for the first contract, they signed for more than what their fathers are earning, you know, so now we're looking at stuff like that. So whose responsibility is that, and where can we, and this is something that I'm very passionate about, of course, you can see, but how do we change that? Like, maybe you guys can just give me a little bit more insight, or maybe let's just have the conversation, you know, so people can literally start thinking about it.
No, I've chatted to agents, sports agents, and they also said it's not their responsibility, because I thought maybe they would play a role there, because it is difficult if you don't have a good mentor in your life. Parents maybe not a good mentor, you're not close to your parents.
You need to be educated in that space.
You need to be educated in the sense that you need someone to trust. Now, who is that person? You know, it's not I don't think it's a short answer. There's one right answer, unfortunately. But I've seen the unions, they don't want to get involved. The agents don't want to get involved. And that's where we are trying to assist some of the people. But I think the work that you've done with this podcast, stuff like that, is just to let them
start the conversation.
Talk about it, just think differently, and make sure you don't just spend your money or just trust anybody, and you're taking big risks.
Yeah, I think like all corporates, especially now, you know, in sport, you still need sort of a soft skill with your players. There needs to be sort of a thing like, we're going to set you up not just mentally, physically, you know, we're going to look after your diet, your fitness, all that stuff. Okay, but what's going to happen with this player after sport? Is he going to be okay? And I know it's a very soft skill, but I feel unions can do a lot more on that side in just getting them the right exposure to have the conversation. Now, it's not their responsibility at all. It's not the agent's responsibility. At the end of the day, it's the individual's responsibility. But that's why we have conversations like this. Mentors like yourself, you know, that, and you can see you care. You actually care about these type of things.
100%.
To help these guys.
I think maybe in a certain way, because there's the rugby union.
We've got my players, you know, and they are doing stuff, and that's the reason why I'm asking, because we've got some stuff is available. You know, there are things that are on the table, but why? Like, and that's why I'm asking. Like, I think mostly it comes down to the individual, Because I mean, but if you don't have and that's the other part of it. If you don't have exposure to something like that, how will it even cross your mind? You know, like, because I mean, I'm thinking of myself, not coming from a base where I have someone that my father didn't own a business, have a tax person doing his tax, and you know, like, oh, I mean, he worked for the government. It's like, it's different, you know, like, so now. How do I then take that responsibility on myself when I don't even have the base of the knowledge that I need to be able to step out and say, okay, how do I build wealth now? And some guys have a 2-year deal, like you said now, you know, like some guys plan the 19 and the 21, and that's where it ends. And people don't think about this. That 21-year-old now needs to be released into the world. Yeah. And think about it being 35, being released into the world now. And now you've got to figure it out, like, you know, and that's why I talk so passionately about this, because I'm like, you know, maybe we just need more conversations like this, you know, like, but somewhere something there needs to be something where I'm like, okay, this is a thing that I know is the guaranteed build for success. That this kid, when he comes in as an 18-year-old, he gets grabbed and he gets the knowledge, and then whatever you do from there, it's on you. But you know, like, we need, I just feel like there needs to be more intent when it comes to that.
Yeah, no, 100%.
That's just my opinion.
We agree, and I don't think we have a solution at this stage, but yeah, I agree with you.
Well, maybe that's something we can work on.
I think as well, when it comes to sportsmen, sometimes they like flashy stuff.
That's what I'm saying.
They like living large, all that stuff.
That's fine for me. Do still the flashy stuff, and they can. But just before that, just put away the
put your 20% away, yeah. Then you'll still be fine, yeah.
Stuff, yeah. For me,
but for people in sport, they need a lot more than 20%.
Than 20%, because remember now it ends 10 years later.
10, 15 years later it ends, and then you need to be able to have an asset or assets that provide an income for the next, let's call it 40 years.
And it needs to be the same value of what you were used to, or a little bit less, because now you've got a lifestyle that's...
So there's a lot that goes into it, like psychologically, where are they thinking, and from the start, as you said, because all of a sudden,
18 years old, we need them there.
18 years old, you're getting 40,000-50,000 bucks per month, right?
Is that what they're getting now?
I don't know.
My goodness. That's not how it started for me, no way.
But what I can tell you, one thing is, there's a huge disconnect from people in sport and what actually happens in the real world.
In the real world, yeah.
So you start making money like this when you're in sport.
Yeah.
You get all your brand deals, TV rights, contract, maybe you play for the Springboks, all that stuff. Get a lot of money very quickly. And then, as you said, there's that drop off.
Yeah.
Some people don't know. Well, most of the guys won't know, because it could be an injury, a season that didn't go well, you get cut. So if you're lucky, you get to 35, 36, like in a normal sport career.
Yeah.
And then what happens from there? That's that drop. And then all of a sudden you think, okay, now it's easy to make 80,000 or 50,000. That's sort of what it is.
That's top management.
But that's not what happens in the real world. So there's this huge, I think, disconnect from what guys think, because money is quite, sounds strange, easy when you're in sport. Like, you get thrown with a lot of money quickly, goes like that.
Yeah.
And then you don't understand that maybe 100,000 or 80,000 rand is sort of quite a lot to get, you know,
with no experience.
With no experience.
no experience.
Yeah.
And then you have to go into a management job and you get 30, 40,000 rand. I think there's a disconnect as well.
So this obviously then leaves me with the question, you know, like your takes on like passive income, you know, and then business. So like, do you believe that athletes should be actively doing that stuff while they're playing, while we're on this topic, you know, like, or should they focus on just investing and building relationships and building partnerships with people, and then obviously when they're done with sport, you know, pursue whatever industry or whatever they wanted to do? How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, for me, and we'll touch on the book later, but we wrote a book about it, and there's basically two sides to wealth. There's the wealth creation, so making the money, and then there's managing the money. Okay, and I think a lot of people blur that line. So let's say for you, you're a rugby player, that's where your skill is, that's where you earn your money, that's where you're making your money, creating the wealth. And then the other side is where you invest to manage the wealth. So on this side, you need a lot of passion, you need to be aggressive, you can take risks, that's what you need as a rugby player. But on this side, you just don't want to take too much risk with your money. You want to make sure it's passive and it's for the long term. So I think it's important for sports people a lot of people want to get rich on this side. on the managing side. That's why there's this get rich quick schemes work and all of that, because they don't make enough where the skill lies, but now they want us or any other scheme to make them rich. You know, so I think it's important to realize, focus on what you're good at. That's where you're going to make your money, and then don't take too much risk on the other side, because now you train 4 times a day, you work hard, you put your body on the line. I don't want you to lose your money on an investment or a scheme or anything. So for me, be very, very careful as a sports person to put into a business or something that you don't know a lot about. So if you have someone with a skill that you really trust, yes, there's certain opportunities, but be very careful. And we've seen a lot of instances where you lose your money and you're the one putting your body on the line.
100%.
I think what you said is actually all of the above. So we spoke a few months ago to a lady that does a lot of brand image, brand consulting, all that stuff. So let's start off with the assets. Yes, you need to start accumulating assets as soon as possible. How do we do that? Your income needs to be more than your expenses. Take that, deposit it into a home or whatever it may be. Some of my clients like their assets. They like having a brick and mortar house that they can rent out. Awesome. Because once you're done with that, pay that off as soon as possible. Let that become a passive income. When you retire, boom, you're getting that income. Pay off your house as soon as possible. There's no payments on that house. All of a sudden, you're getting a lot of passive income. So if it's by brick and mortar property or with your investments providing you with a solid dividend each month or whatever it may be, it's an asset. And I think that's what people also need to understand. Income generating assets. Doesn't matter in what shape or form it is, okay,
as long as it makes money.
But as long as it's something solid that gets you money. Other thing is with sportsmen, they need to understand that you need to be a brand. You need to be marketable. Once you step out of the sport, somebody needs to say, well, I like this guy. We spoke about a guy like Skulk Brits.
Yes.
He's a great guy.
Gets into a room. They
people
love
absolutely
him. Yo.
But he's a brand.
100%.
Right? And not everyone can be brands, but maybe that's something you can also look into as a sportsman and say, listen, maybe I need to go and see a brand consultant that can help me build something on Instagram, maybe find a passion, you know, if it's fitness, like you rugby guys are like
fitness is the easiest one.
Machines, right? So maybe start like a fitness sort of consultancy or whatever it may be, like a brand, whatever it may be, but pivot into that, right, into your strengths, build a brand, become marketable, and you know, do the right things with your assets, with your disposable income.
Yeah, sure. That's a lot. We're giving away free information here. I'm just saying, guys, like you usually pay for stuff like this. It's like, I love this. In your view, like, what is the biggest lie that we are sold about money? Any one of you can, like, what is it? I think both of you. Yes, please.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, I think we touched on it earlier. Money is the root of all evil. You know, I think if you have that mindset, we see people do so many good things with money, really giving back, putting children through school, you know, looking after the poor. So, money can do a lot of good, and I think that's the way you should look at it. Otherwise, you're just going to limit yourself and have that limited mindset around money. So I think that's the first lie that people think is that money is evil.
And just on that as well, it's greed. That's sort of the evil part with it. Again, in the book of Morgan Housel, Psychology of Money, when is enough enough? You know, and you need to understand that, because everything in life there's a price to pay. In Afrikaans geleentheidskoste, right? So you can try and build an empire, business empire, but you can only work so many hours per day until your relationship with your wife and your kids go under, right? Because you're just chasing money the whole time. So understand where you are in life. Understand, listen, if I do this is most probably what's going to happen in my marital life with my kids or whatever. What is it that actually, you know, solidifies, or what's your root, what's your anchor in life, and let that be that. But finances don't make it makes life easier, but it doesn't take your problems away.
Oh,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think there's an old expression: does money make you happy?
Mm.
You know, and it does. I must say till a certain point.
Yeah.
And I think they've done the studies. It's around in South Africa now. I would assume between 60 to 70,000 rand per month income, because under that you have an emergency fund. You can put your kids through school, and maybe you can have a holiday every now and then. So up until 60 to 70 per month.
Yeah.
It's nice, so
Yeah.
your happiness does increase,
Yeah.
but then it kind of plateaus,
Yeah.
and we see that with a lot of wealthy people. They can be very miserable. The marriages don't work out, so all of that. So I think it's very important to run your own race.
Yeah.
See where you are, because now social media is
Sure.
difficult. We look
Yeah.
at your friends, your peers, or the Elon Musk of the world, or whatever
Yeah.
people, and then we aspire to be like them.
Yeah.
But make sure that you run your own race and don't
Yeah.
look at the people around you. And I know it's very difficult.
Yeah.
But that's one definite recipe for disaster.
A practical thing that I've been starting to do is like taking digital breaks. Like, you know, like my wife just tells me now, because I'm working on social media so much, I keep putting my limit off because I have to go and check stuff and I have to do stuff again. But I've noticed, like I did it in January where I took a whole month just off social because I was annoyed. Keep seeing stuff that I'm like, oh, like it's such a big thing, you know. It's nice to be on the platforms, but like just the practical thing is stay, you know, like, because obviously the more stuff you look at, so you look at nice cars the whole time, you see more nice cars, you know, like, and then you start feeling like you're saying now. So sometimes we just need to take a break from all of that, reassess, look at your life, see where you're at and what do you want to do with your life and where you are now, in the moment. Don't look at what other people are doing and that would be nice. No, what are you doing? Where are you going? And because with the age of internet and being so connected to the world, we're not that connected, but we feel like we're that connected. You know, you aspire to other people's stuff. You don't build your own vision. You don't build your own thing. And you know, like, yes, we say by the hart van vol is loop die mond van oor, you know. So, but you got to play. That vision is inside of you. You need to be able to. But you need to look at you, you know, and that's what sometimes I feel like a lot of people, and we make the mistake. I make the mistake as well. Sometimes you look at stuff and you're like, that would be nice, and that's okay from time to time. But that can't be the essence of what your life or what you want for your life. You know, it's just,
I think as well on that, you need to be a very confident person to be able to do that, and you need to know yourself extremely well to say, this is basically the cards that I've been dealt with in life.
Yeah.
Not everyone can be a multimillionaire. Not everyone can be a Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Not everybody is born into generational wealth, stuff like that. Okay, so now all of a sudden you try and compete and you're just getting more miserable and more miserable. It's just stealing more joy away from your own life. So focus on everything that God has given you, and you'll be a lot more appreciative. I don't even know if that's a word.
Gratitude. You'll have gratitude.
You'll have a lot more gratitude about the things that you do have, and all of a sudden your mindset will change a lot. So understand where you are, and run that race. Play your own game, because you can't play their game.
No.
Because then you're going to start burning your fingers, and quickly. And I think people don't understand or are willing to accept that.
Yeah, that's powerful. And then, if the economy crashed tomorrow, you know, like this is your specialty. This is your specialty, so I had to put this in here. If it crashed tomorrow, what should the average South African do to protect their financial future?
Yeah, it's not a short answer, but I think
just as like an overview.
With all of this, focus on what you can control. There's people forget what they actually can control. We worry about the financial crisis, what Trump's going to say, what Ramaphosa is going to say, is the VAT going up or down, and all of that. But we don't put away our 10% or 20%. We're looking, is this investment better, that investment, and then we don't make a decision. So just focusing on what you can control. And your expenses and what you put away, that is 100% in your control. So I think if you focus on that and you build up a nice emergency pot, is what we call it, emergency investments pot, then you will be able to go through something like a financial crisis or COVID, etc.
Yeah, and that emergency pot, is that money that you would have to have aside to invest, not to use? So you're saying emergency pot, you know, somewhere one side to invest, because when the markets are down, there's opportunities.
Yes, to invest or to live. Say in COVID, a lot of people didn't get income for 6 months.
Okay.
So now at least you have an income. So And we recommend, that's why I normally say debit orders work great, and just putting it out of your control. Some people leave it in the bank, but then they see a nice pair of shoes, then they use that emergency pot. So for us, we just see it.
You move it somewhere in a fund.
The advisor comes in. He just gives you, like a personal trainer in the gym, or your fitness coach in the gym. He keeps you honest and he keeps you accountable for the goals you set for yourself. You know, you can do it yourself, but it's a lot harder.
Yeah,
sure.
I think on that as well. Now, let's say there's an economic downturn and there's absolutely chaos everywhere. That's where a lot of people need to learn their lessons the most, right? Because then all of a sudden you get interest rates spiking or inflation going up, all that stuff. Now all of a sudden your margins get squeezed a lot, all right? Because basically everything is linked to the interest rate. So now you all of a sudden see my personal loan, my credit card, my car, everything is going up, right? But if you didn't give yourself enough leeway or margin from the start, you don't protect yourself enough. Okay. So that's where people also need to understand, okay, yes, I want to live a certain standard, but can I afford to live that standard? Can I afford it when things go haywire? And that's where people really start burning their fingers. And I think it's very important to also understand the foundations of a person's portfolio, where I'm big into debt. I hate debt because that's one thing that, you know, it kept me up when I was young, kept me up at night because I hate it. But for me, and he does.
So you would be a rich man. To me, you would be a rich man.
so I would say, let's look at your credit card, personal loan, all that stuff. Let's try and pay that off sooner. Get that done. Okay, that's done. Before that, we can't actually move on and build an emergency savings because everything extra we have to put into our debt because the interest is just too high. So let's kill that. Let's build an emergency savings fund, which he spoke about. Now, that's not investing, and you'll speak about that probably a little bit later, investing and saving. And that is your basically, how can I say, it's just your margin of safety. And then from there, you can start saying, this is done, this is there. Okay, cool. Now, from there on, I can boom, I can go. Now I can start building wealth.
Let's have a plan.
Let's talk on that. I mean, investing versus saving, like, because obviously some people might think putting money in a bank account is investing. Is that investing?
I've heard this analogy which was quite good for me. So if you take sunflower seeds, you have a handful of sunflower seeds. If you take the sunflower seeds and you put them somewhere else, you're saving them for another day to use them. But if you take that same sunflower seeds and you put them in the ground to grow, to make a flower or sunflower oil or to sell flowers, whatever, that's investing. But you need time there. So putting it into a savings account, that's fine, but make sure you're at least growing. If you put it away, make sure it's at least growing by inflation, so 6% normally. Where investing, you would aim to get between 10, 12, 13% in the long term. So saving, a lot less riskier, but also a lot less return that you will get. Good for the short term, meaning if you're going to use the money in 3 months' time, that's fine, just save it in your account. But other than that, you want to invest and you want your money to grow above inflation, which is 6%.
And then obviously when it comes to investing, saving, all of this kind of stuff, time is a very important thing, right? So we're talking about compound interest and all of that, but that's a big term for some people that might not understand finance. How would you explain that for people to understand? Do you have a story, do you have an analogy that you can use for people to understand what the effects of compounding interest on an investment or what would be?
Yeah, so I've got a little question for you, okay? But just so by the way, no one gets this right. So even my actual scientist clients don't get this one right. Okay, so you've got two clients. The one person, so let's say for yourself, you've got a goal of 10 million rand. You've got 40 years to invest. Okay, your investment grows at 10%. Now Hugh, he comes in 20 years later. All right, so he's got 20 years to invest, 10% interest rate, same as yours, and also 10 million rand goal. You need to invest 1,300 rand, 1,600 rand per month, right?
Because they've got longer time
to get there. Take a wild guess. How much Hugh needs to invest per month? He started 20 years later.
20 years later, my goodness. I won't be able to do the quick math, but I'm have to think like 10 times at least. 10 times, 20 times more.
It's close to 10 times. So 13,200 rand.
Yesterday.
So that's a difference that time makes in an investment.
Yeah.
So start earlier.
Yeah.
But a lot of people say, okay, well, twice the period, so maybe twice the number. No.
Yeah, and I think it's like a avalanche. Where does it start? It starts with a little grain of snow. It starts rolling, gradually gets bigger. After 5 years, let's say, that investment, you don't see it as big of growth. So most people stop after 3 years, or they want to invest at the beginning, but it doesn't grow aggressively, then they stop or they withdraw their money. I've got a lot of specifically sports people with me that started, they've heard it, and it doesn't grow that much. But then gradually it starts build and become this massive snowball and avalanche where you just get that compound interest. It's interest on interest, but it's slow at the beginning, and that's when most people stop before it gets this massive power.
Yeah. But it comes back to the whole thing of putting the 20% and not even seeing it, because then you don't even look at it. You won't see the slow growth. You just know 10 years from now you look at it and you're like, wow, look at what I'm having.
He's the most well-known investor of all time. Your recipe is so simple. Why don't more people do it? And he said, because no one wants to get rich slowly. You know, and that's really the power.
That's profound.
No one wants to get rich slowly. They want to get rich quick. So.
And now we've got Bitcoin, and everyone thinks that's the next thing. Oh, yes, it's always a new thing.
The sad thing for me about Bitcoin is people that couldn't invest, they normally didn't have money to invest, and all of a sudden I see they have 50,000 Bitcoin. Where did they get that money from? So it's the kids' university fees or something. But it's sad, it's mostly people who don't have a lot of money that invest in these things. It's not the wealthy people. It's mostly people that don't have a lot.
Sure, that's interesting. So now we get to, like, you know, let's make it a little bit more real for the people that are listening. You know, what are the tools or apps, you know, anyone can use to manage, or, you know, if I'm at home and I'm a little bit intimidated, I can't come to you guys. You know, what can I use? Are there free tools and stuff that I can use to manage my money better?
Well, there's a lot of budgeting. You mentioned about the banking accounts. Most banking apps will have that. I know there's 24/7. It's the banking app that also does that. And then Easy Equities. It's a platform where you can buy shares or indexes. So a lot of people say they want to invest on their own, and that's a good place. Maybe start there, so you just get to learn more about it. But if you do invest, don't try and pick single stocks. That's what people make the problem. They say, I'm going to buy Sassel because it's low. I'm going to buy Steinhoff. I remember a lot of people buying Steinhoff for these reasons. Rather just go for an index tracker, meaning you buy the whole index.
Whole fund,
So it's 500 different companies you invest in, and just keep it there. So if you want to do it yourself, there is different platforms, but normally we see the more wealth you accumulate, you don't want to do it on your own. You should on your own, because tax becomes
You also won't have the time. If you're making that kind of money, you don't have the time to go and sit and do it yourself. But we're thinking of the normal, you know, average person looking at how can they improve their finances, you know.
Just go and sit, maybe on an Excel sheet is also good. Just see your income and just know what you're spending it on. Like you say, go print your bank statements, or just look on the app and actually write down what you're spending on. I think it's a good place to start.
And I don't think this is specifically a tool, but I mean, if you want to earn more, learn more. I mean, books. Important. I mean, this book from Morgan Housel, we still use it in a lot of our content, in the way we see money, advice, stuff like that. A lot of behavioral psychology in here as well. It's $200 for the book. I mean, if you go and take a lot,
you probably get it for a deal.
You get it for a deal. I mean, there are extremely good books there for 200, 250 Rand, whatever. It's not an expense, it's an investment. And in these books, they also give a lot of examples about what you can do, pitfalls, stuff like that. So if you don't want to go and see an advisor, if you do not have enough trust in a financial advisor or any of those guys, right? Read. And not, you know, quick, rich, you know, get rich quick scheme, stuff like that. Go and have a look at these books. I promise you, you will absolutely love it. It gives so much good advice.
Give us 5 books, 3 books, 2 books. What would you say is your top 2? Obviously, we've got Voortreek, Blayreek, you know, as number 1 on the list. But what books would you suggest, like, people go and read?
I like the mindset books. Like Richard Poorad was a good book to start with. The Richest Man in Babylon. It's also a timeless book. It gives you certain different mindsets. Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill, also a timeless book. So I think those for me stand out because they they still can stand the test of time. It's more
Yeah.
like habits and mindsets.
Yeah.
It's not just relevant
Yeah.
now. And I think 7 Habits of Highly Effective People for me is still, it's not only about finance, but just in life in general.
Mm.
Definitely a good book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
huge fan of Morgan Housel. He's got 2 books, always the same, or same as always. Psychology of Money. There's another book, a very, very easy read. I think it's Patrick Creer, with Poverty Mindset or Poverty Proof.
Mm.
He's a South African writer.
Okay.
It gives you 50 sort of tips on how you can think about money, how you can generate extra income, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was extremely good. And then on the Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg was also extremely good. So yeah, those are basically my top reads.
Yeah, sure. And before we get into it, I'm going to give you an opportunity to talk about what your book is all about. You know, I wanted to give the listeners a challenge. Like, what can you guys give them as a challenge? You know, let's do one challenge that they can implement literally as they finish this episode now to improve their financial future or to improve the way they think about money. You know, something practically that if you say, go and do this now, it will definitely make it better.
I would say if there are guys with debt, go and check out what's the interest rate on the debt. Because people don't understand interest rates and their debt. So first of all, go read up on interest rates and inflation and look up all your debt that you have.
And then what do we do with that?
Then you can...
We come to you.
Then you guys can, but my idea around it is, he's a little bit different than mine, okay, than my philosophy, but both are extremely good. I like paying off the one with the most interest.
Okay.
Okay, so your personal loans and your clothing accounts usually have the highest interest rates, and that's where people always feel trapped. I'm not getting out of it.
Yeah.
So personal loans, clothing accounts, highest, then you're looking at a credit card, then you're looking at your car. So for me, I say just roll it over. So pay off more into your personal loan if you have one. Then after that's paid off, now you're not sitting with the extra $2,000 or $1,000. That needs to go into your credit card.
Yeah.
Now from there on, okay, is it going to be my car, my house? That's always debatable because your house will have over the period more interest.
Increase,
but again, that's one thing for me.
Yeah, for me it's just create a plan. You have to have a plan. With everything like rugby, you have a game plan. You have to have a game plan. And we've created a 6-step plan. But just go, the first 2 steps is know where you are, meaning what's your net worth. What's your assets minus your liabilities. So know where you are and then know where you want to go, meaning your goals.
Okay.
Go and write short, medium and long-term goals. So I think start there. Know where you are, what's your net worth, and then know where you want to go, the short, medium and long-term goals.
Sure. That's, guys, please. I mean, we're talking to these people. They've seen this. They've done this for so many years. That's a practical thing that you guys can go and do. Check your debt. Check what is the highest. And then obviously write your plan. Have that 2 steps and know exactly where you are and where do you want to go. And then we get to your book. Obviously, you know, like, tell us a little bit about it. What is it all about? Where can people get it? The floor is yours.
Yeah, no, thank you. So we at a television series actually on Cape Net 3 years ago where we interviewed some successful prominent people, and we just put basically those principles into the first half of the book. So the Woordraad, that's where you get your money, you get rich, you create wealth. And then the second part of the book is where you manage your money. That's what we do as financial advisors. We take the money that you've created for your area of speciality, for you say it's rugby, then we assist you in managing that. So once again, very important to know there's 2 sides to wealth and not to blur those lines. And I think for people to realize that is the most important point we wanted to get across in this book. So it's nice practical tips from people who's done it.
Yeah, sure. That's awesome. That's awesome. Any final thoughts, gents?
No, we are passionate about what we do, and it's nice to see that you're also passionate about helping people. So for us, we just keep on sharing tips on our sites or pages as well.
And I've been digging in, so I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. It's a lot of value there.
Okay. Great, thank you. And we try to let people change the perception about finance. It shouldn't be something that you're scared of. It shouldn't be intimidating. Start talking about it and change your mindset around it.
Yeah, and for me, I think we spoke a lot about social media and all that stuff, but something that I heard the other day, which was quite profound for me, Your valuables don't make you value, doesn't give you value. So your valuables doesn't give you value. Your value makes you valuable.
Sure.
So by flaunting cars, money, clothes, all that stuff, doesn't make you more or less. Just your values are so extremely important in this life, and I think that should anchor a lot of people.
Sure. Guys, I can't say thank you enough. You can see I'm very passionate about this topic. This is something that I still want to learn and have to learn a lot more of, and we will talk again off air. We'll do something again, and I just want to say thank you. I think people might not be able to realize the value that's in something like this. You usually pay a lot of money for something like this, but that's not what it's about. It's about improving people's lives. It's about educating people, having these conversations and making people understand that we can talk differently and think differently when it comes to money. It doesn't have to be an intimidating thing. It doesn't have to be a fearful thing. This is something that we work with each and every day of our lives, and that we need. You need to do this, you need to work with that from when you turn 15, 16, when you work your first casual job, to when you say goodbye. So I think, just thank you. I think, from my side, and, I'm going to say thank you for everyone watching. I'm going to say thank you so much for educating them and allowing them to sit in basically a consultation, and giving them that knowledge for free. So that's just from my side. Thank you.
It was awesome.
Lovely. Guys, thank you so much. If you got to this part of the conversation, I want you to leave a comment below and tell me what has been the favorite part of this conversation. What have you learned? What can you take away? Put it down in the comment section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We want to thank these gentlemen for sharing this for free with us today, and I'll see you on the next one.